Okay, apparently the Hangout is now live if we did it correctly. So, hello everyone, this is Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net. And for those of you who are watching this on the Entrepreneur channel live, the reason this isn't on my movie channel is because of technical issues. So, for all the people who usually come to this channel, there will be no talk about Uber, Postmates, DoorDash, whatever. We are talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, and I am talking about it with Rob, the movie critic from the movie channel. Say hi, Rob.
Hey, how are you doing, guys?
And you may have noticed that his face is seen while mine is not, and that is simply because he is a better looking guy, and I don't want that to be highlighted as a result. Alright, I'm totally kidding. I just don't know what's going on with the camera. That's why you can't see me. So you're gonna have to stick with the little logo, which I actually think does look better than me in general. But whatever.
I like the logo. It's cool.
Yeah, I like the logo too. If this was on the other channel, you'd see me sipping a little ice cream chocolate frothy thing. I don't know, but yeah, I like this little app logo. So anyway, so it's been a long time since I've done a live stream, so I've kind of forgotten some of the rules, but basically we'll be talking about the movie. And for the record, since this is a discussion, it will be filled with spoilers. Not that I personally think there's a whole lot to spoil in this movie. Not saying that's a
No,
knock against the film. I'm just saying this isn't the most surprising movie in the world. You're not. There's not going to
no.
be any major twists. And having watched the preview after I saw the film, I can think of at least one twist that was pretty much the only twist that was spoiled by the previews, and this is why I don't watch previews. So there you have that. But anyway, I guess before we begin the discussion, on a scale of okay, on a star grade from 5 stars being perfect to 0 stars being um, basically 0 stars is turning in your homework with your name on it, getting you a higher grade in school than the movie would actually get a recommendation. What would you give it?
I'd say 4.2, 4.3.
All right, we're gonna do that to 4.5. So basically 4.5 stars.
Okay.
Okay, so for the record, I gave it 4 stars. Compared to the first film got 4.5 stars from me. So yeah, pretty high star grades. Obviously, this one's a little bit lower, as some people have noted, and people who read my 2 reviews were a little confused because they said, "Well, it sounds like the sequel is better. It sounds like you also didn't dislike it compared to the first one. So why does it get a smaller grade?" And I think basically the only reason is, well, if anything, this movie just lacks an element of surprise because when
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy came out, I mean, I knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were because I read comics, but most people don't know who the Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, they didn't at the time anyway, and so that it caught people completely off guard how much they enjoyed it. And now that we have the sequel, once it catches you that off guard, the expectation that the sequel is going to blow you away in the same way the second time is probably a little unrealistic, I'd say,
True.
because at this point we're familiar with the characters, we're familiar with the setting, and we've got a general idea of where the story is going. So that's really the only reason that the second one scored a little lower. But honestly, this is why star grades can be so arbitrary sometimes
True.
because people act as if like giving this movie half a star less than the previous one means it's a lesser film, and it really isn't.
You
And
know,
I've even actually argued that, not that I want to get into the ending too soon, but I would argue the second movie has a much better climax than the first one.
yeah, yeah.
So
I was gonna say along the vein of rating movies. That was something that when I started my channel, I debated on whether or not to actually put like a letter grade or a numerical score to my reviews, and I'm not doing it because I figure I'm gonna just talk about it and I'll let people decide in their minds what they think I'm giving as far as the numerical or alphabetical grade. Because, like you said, it's kind of arbitrary to like well, since you gave it 4.5 instead of a 4, then maybe this movie's a lot better, or is it not? And because I mean, you have movies that I would give a 5 star to that other people might not, and I think the whole rating system, although people have used it well, it's not something I would do for that reason that you stated.
All right. Well, then we get that. That could start like a whole new conversation about because I actually
Right.
know as a film critic, you are obligated to give a rating of some sort. But as Roger Ebert famously said, the star ratings are subjective. They're not absolute. And for the record, folks, when I say Guardians of the Galaxy is like 4 stars, I'm not comparing it to every movie out
Right.
there. I mean, it's kind of like, well, if Hulk is 2 stars and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is 4 stars and The Dark Knight is 5 stars. I'm comparing it to similar
Mm-hmm.
movies. I mean, if I like, what's a movie that I like? Me giving the first Guardians of the Galaxy 4.5 stars does not mean it's equal to Moonlight, which I also gave 4.5 stars. They're so completely different movies.
True.
So we should stress that any star grade or any praise we're doing, it's pretty much in reference to other superhero and action or science fiction movies. Maybe even just in general Marvel movies. Actually, if I was just comparing it to other Marvel movies, maybe this is a 4.5 star movie.
They
Because
kind of are their own genre at this point, though.
they really are. And of course, the funny thing is, boy, yeah, for those, obviously, just to give everyone a little bit of context, me and Rob have had some very, let's say, spirited conversations
I was going to
about
use the word heated, but
I'm gonna err on the side of politeness. We've had very spirited conversations about the value of the Marvel cinematic universe, and we might even have one of these arguments today because, if anything, I think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 kind of proves why the cinematic universe is actually more flawed than people realize.
yeah.
Because let's state something that I think we can both agree with. Despite some of the Easter eggs, that kind of shows that the Guardians of the Galaxy are connected to the bigger expanded universe that Marvel does. It's really almost it's really almost disconnected in a strange way because the connections are slight. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really depend on knowledge of any of the other Marvel movies, and for that matter, nothing that the Guardians are doing are right now greatly affecting anything that's going on with the Avengers or anything.
Wow. Especially, I think this one was less connected than the first one because the first one you had Thanos that showed up, which
Right.
if you saw the end credits tag on Avengers, oh, he's coming. But
Yeah.
this one, there was pretty much nothing. I mean, yeah, there were things here and there, but it was really detached, and I liked it for that matter because I love the interconnected universe, but at the same time, I'm glad that there's movies like this that are in the same universe but doing their own thing because it gives you a breather.
It, well, it does, and of course, there's the argument that movies should be movies themselves.
Yeah.
I will touch upon Thanos after I make this. Actually, no, I'll make the comment later, but let's touch upon Thanos for a minute because some
Okay.
people have stated that Thanos is like, well, how would you understand what Thanos is without watching the Avengers? Because technically, he made his first appearance at the end of the Avengers. But
Hmm.
I would argue, well, Thanos doesn't really get introduced until the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
And in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, he is discussed at great length, but he is discussed as it affects the immediate characters, which is
Hmm.
Gamora and
Gamora and
her
Nebula.
sister, whose name I can't remember. And I'm
Nebula.
bad with name Nebula. Okay, I'm bad with names. I'm just gonna state that right now. Everything that they discuss about was Thanos involves these characters, so it's like I don't even think they're aware that Thanos is out there traversing the universe, causing trouble for Captain America and Iron Man. So I think that's that's kind of, and I like that. I like that. Like an interesting thing. I saw this movie with with my girlfriend, I can actually say that now. That's a weird thing to say. And she had, yeah, I know.
She's gonna watch this. She's gonna be like, "Why is it weird?"
Well, because it's only beneficial for a couple weeks, I guess. So,
Oh, okay.
you know, so it's kind of one of those things where it's like I don't know, maybe it doesn't feel real until it's like a month in. I don't know, but anyway, she had not seen the first Guardians of the Galaxy, and while I think she has seen the occasional Marvel movie, she is not she's not well versed in it. She
Mhm.
clear. I mean, if I were to ask her, who was the villain in Iron Man 3, like, she couldn't tell me. And if I told her it was the Mandarin, she'd probably go like, "What?"
It's an
So
orange.
yeah, maybe it's an
It's
orange.
an orange.
It's an orange, yeah. So anyway, she not well versed in this universe, but she liked Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 just fine. And for that matter, my parents, they're actually seeing the movie as we are having this conversation.
Nice.
So and that's because they like the first movie. In fact, my mom says, "Yeah, it's kind of like Star Trek was oldies," which I know that's going to offend some people, but it's like, yeah, why not? That's about as best a way to describe it to a
It's
non-superhero
not.
fan that I can
Yeah,
think
that's a very avid description.
of. Yeah, but you know what? There is a lot of strength in this being self-contained with each movie because she could follow it without having seen the first one or the other Marvel movies. And honestly, that's what a good movie should
Mm,
do. It
yeah.
really should do that. And I now to get to the now to segue into the point that I was making before about this connected universe and how it proves and what I was going to say before is that basically I'm just curious how many of my reviews do you actually read, Rob? Are you familiar with my how
I've
I've like
read
graded
several.
these?
We had we had a little bit of a falling out after after one of our debates, and so I just stopped reading them. But I have read a few, and I like them. Don't get me wrong. Um,
But you disagree with some of them.
yeah. I mean, and it's like you said, and uh, it's subjective, and I don't mind people disagreeing with me about film because yeah, okay, everybody has their own likes, dislikes. My mom doesn't like all the Marvel movies. She loves Guardians, but she doesn't really care about a bunch of the movies that I care about because she thinks that they're weird.
Maybe
But
that
at the
should be the
same,
tagline: Guardians, the Marvel movie for your mother.
and I was thinking about why it's so successful, and I think it's the same reason why Iron Man was successful, and why, and for that matter, Winter Soldier was successful because those are movies that you can watch them and they would make sense to you without having seen the broader canon. Whereas something like Civil War, if you haven't seen about 4 or 5 of the movies, you're pretty much like, what's going on here? Which for somebody that does, okay, yeah, it makes sense. It's beautiful. Go for it. But I think that's one of the strengths, especially of the first Guardians, because it was something completely new, completely fresh. Other than the big blue guy in his chair, Thanos showing up, there really was no other connection. So there was strength in that.
Right. Exactly. Well, I asked a question because I'm sure one of the reviews of mine that you're familiar with. I mean, we didn't have the falling out over this one, but I know that we had disagreed because, like, I remember, I think you actually like left a comment on Avengers: Age of Ultron, and it was like 1 star. Are you serious? I think that was you. If
I
man,
can, and after because when you watch a movie, at least for me, the reason why I watch them is to just kind of immerse myself in the moment. It could be the crappiest movie in the world, and I'll still give it some enjoyability. The only movie that I came out angry at, like legitimately angry at, was Batman v Superman because I thought that was just atrocious. But that's for another topic.
right?
But I came at it from that, and even I know, yeah, Age of Ultron is flawed on several levels. Um, but it's like I said, film is subjective, and You had your opinions, I have mine, and that's why I was like, "Are you kidding me? 1 star? Come on!"
Yeah.
But
I
I
also
see
put
your
it
point.
number 4 on the fourth on the worst films of the year list, which really pissed some of my readers off.
Oh,
Yeah, I did. I went there. But I had a friend who came up and said, "Well, you don't understand. Stand. This is setting up Phase 3 of the
no,
cinematic
it should
universe."
stand on its own.
And I was like, I mean, I kind of put things aside from. I'm like, okay, look. First of all, I would argue. First of all, it does need to end. It needs to be its own thing, which I don't think it did a very good job on. And
No,
also, if we're nearing the end of Phase 2, maybe Phase 2 should be wrapping up before we start setting up Phase 3. But okay, whatever. So it's a setup for Phase 3.
it's because
Then
in reality, all the phases have been leading up to Thanos, so all of the movies are gonna go there.
they have, but you know, Age of Ultron, like I mean, let's face it, that was just like grievously nothing got accomplished in that
True.
movie, and nothing got changed, and it really felt like it was just setting a setup. And then Captain America: Civil War comes out, which you know I like a little bit better. Don't get me wrong, but it still felt like, oh, they're setting up the future Avengers movie. It's still not standing on its own. And that
They're
same
setting
friend,
up Avengers. They're setting up Spider-Man. They're setting up Black Panther.
yeah, and that same friend came back and said, yeah, that was an interesting way to set up Phase 3. And then Ant Man comes out, and I liked Ant Man a lot more. Actually, I liked Ant Man a lot. Even though I gave it 3.5 stars, I noted how much more fun it was. And the same friend, he came back and was like, oh, yeah, that was a very interesting way to start Phase 3. And at that point, I got a little fed up, and I was like, okay, dude, we have had 3 movies across 2 years, almost 9 hours worth of content. Tell me, when does Phase 3 actually begin? When does it begin? And so that's the point I was trying to get, is like that's why the Marvel movies have been frustrating me more and more, because it seems like so much of it's just setting up the next movie. I kind of feel like, man, this would be way more fun if it were on TV and I just had to wait a week and could watch it for free, as
Yep.
opposed to waiting every 6 months and buying a new movie ticket. And that's why it's a relief when Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 actually ends.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I
granted,
think on the same vein, going away from the Marvel canon, like from Marvel Universe, Logan and Deadpool are 2 movies that I thought were refreshing because they didn't tie back to their gigantic universes that everybody has to do now, because that's the thing since Marvel did it. And I like that. You know, I like Logan for that matter, and I like Deadpool for that.
oh yeah,
Um,
and those are very good movies. And in fact, I actually even kind of predicted that a lot of Marvel fans would hate Logan, because guess what? It's a standalone movie and it's wrapping things up, and it's not fitting into the larger X-Men universe. And sure enough, people complained about it, and I'm like, but guys, that is a bad standard to have. Like, I want to
yeah,
watch the current
yeah,
movie. Like, I don't know. To me, watching a movie that has no ending because it's setting up the future movie, or it's setting up who knows how many movies, is
hmm
almost akin to watching a TV show and seeing that little ad in the corner of the screen advertising a TV show for
yeah,
another night. That, hey, guess what? I'm trying to watch this show.
right, yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's like, I am not currently interested in watching House. I am watching The Simpsons.
That's true. But yeah, no, that
So
was one that was one, and because like I just said, everything now has to connect. I'm like, well, just let Marvel and DC do their thing. Let DC figure it out because they're still trying to figure it out, and let Marvel keep doing its thing, and everybody else just do something else. Don't do universes because now everybody's doing universes, and it's so tiring and boring. Where I'm like, I don't want to watch these movies. I just want to watch Marvel because I'm attached to Marvel. But other than that, I'm like, forget all of you other people. And that's again why Guardians was so refreshing, because even though it's part of Marvel, it's so detached that it felt original. Same reason I thought Logan was original.
yeah,
It's funny that I just had a comment about Logan that I didn't know when I watched Logan, and for that matter, when I watched the Wolverine, that James Mangold, he's really come. You know, his thing is Western
yeah.
genre.
He directed 310 to Yuma was
Yeah, which I
Russell
own.
Crowe and Christian Bale.
And so I Googled him after I
Me too.
watched the Wolverine, and I'm like, or no, when I first saw the teaser for Logan, I think it was, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's perfect. It's a Western with with Wolverine in it, and
Pretty much.
a bit, but I mean, it was amazing, you know, just that environment to put him in. But yeah, that was my little aside, because I was like, ding, whoa, okay, it's a Western director, cool, let's do it.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that's definitely them. You know, it's
Yeah,
actually kind of interesting that of all people, Fox understands why you don't overexert yourself when it comes to extended universes because they have the X-Men, which seems like that would be the one thing you would tailor make a cinematic universe for, and they're like, no, we're not going to do that. They're still going to be their individual films. Whereas Sony
no.
tried to make an extended universe with just Spider-Man,
Mm.
and
Uh,
yeah,
that was the Batman v Superman before Batman v Superman.
let's not go that far, because Amazing Spider-Man 2 had elements that worked, and it wasn't
True.
atrocious.
True.
It was just, boy, this could have been a little bit better if you weren't so worried about setting up future
True.
movies.
True.
Which, you know, Batman versus Superman, that's all it was a setup
Was a setup.
for the DC cinematic universe, and
Hang on, let me read my emails
sure,
for 5 minutes, like Wonder Woman had to do in the middle of the movie
yeah,
to figure out, hey, these are the Justice League, go find them.
yeah,
So dumb. Anyway, we're
yeah,
talking about Guardians. Let's not go down that road. That's going to be dark, deep, and depressing.
dark, yeah, dark, deep, and depressing. Just one more thing. Batman: The Killing Joke was released at the same time, and it was much better and cost a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, even though the animation was a little shoddy.
Yeah, well, you know what? Direct to video. What can you say? It's still better.
The animation was a little shoddy, and that prequel should have been eliminated from that movie.
Well, would you rather put up with 20 minutes of a prequel that could be eliminated, or an hour of an epilogue?
Oh no! I'll take the prequel, absolutely, because I can hear Kevin Conroy do Batman. So
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes it all better.
Yep. All right. So okay, back to Guardians of
Back
the
to Guardians.
Galaxy. You know, so yeah, glad it's not a cinematic universe. Yeah, but here's something interesting. Because even though it's not a cinematic universe, one thing that did surprise me, because it is a sequel, I didn't see John C. Riley. I didn't see
Yeah,
Glenn Close. Really, the only new characters was Kurt Russell and those gold things whose name, of course, I can't remember.
the
I
Sovereign.
Yeah, the Sovereign. My church is Sovereign Grace Church. Go fig. But
Basically,
yeah,
well, no, they're basically the Adam Warlock teaser. That's all they were in the movie.
Yeah. Possibly, but yeah. So that's the other interesting thing is, like, you know, yeah, it's a sequel, and yet they've taken some established characters and they didn't show up, and they're introducing new characters, and I kind of like, because it sets up like, oh, so the Guardians they're pretty much going to be like new planet, new universe every time they're going to traverse the galaxy. So this is going to be kind of like a road trip series of
Yeah.
space superheroes. And you know, since we're talking about the cinematic universe, that means that their involvement, I actually expect that their involvement was the Infinity War movies. They're just going to happen to be at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be traversing the universe and just not even realize, and just stumble upon them. Hey, the Collector wasn't in this movie either, now that I realize.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, like, it's like, you have an Oscar-winning actor, and he's contractually obligated to appear in the sequels, and you decided, nah, we don't need him.
I like that. I like that they didn't put him in there either.
Yeah, I hope they bring him back, because it's kind of
Sure.
like, it's kind of like, okay, look, you're not hiring Benicio del Toro for nothing. At least I hope you're not hiring him for nothing. I'm hoping this character will be way more important down the road.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. That would almost be the equivalent of hiring Jack Nicholson to be the newscaster on the TV. Like, well, why would you hire someone of that talent to do a throwaway character?
Yeah. He had a big part, but still, I think he's got more movies to do, at least contractually. which is another reason why I don't like knowing the contracts of everybody, because it's like, we know you're not going to die yet.
Yeah, you know you're not gonna die. Which, speaking of that, Yolando, is that his name?
Yondu.
Yondu. Okay, Yondu. I know I am good. People are not gonna like what I have to say. I
Oh boy.
really hope he stays dead.
Oh, me too. Oh, me too. Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Because I would argue that Marvel's biggest weakness in all of their movies, with the exception of the ones that they ironically don't make themselves, is that there's no consequence to anything that happens
Hmm.
in any of these movies.
No. And we
None
can agree on that.
whatsoever.
We can agree on that.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
With the
character.
exception of Quicksilver.
Who cared about that? Well, who
Exactly.
cared about that Quicksilver? I mean, the
Yeah.
Quicksilver in the X-Men movies you would have hated to
Yeah.
see go, but I mean, it's like, yeah, that would have made a lot more sense for them to kill Hawkeye, in my opinion,
Yeah.
especially since he didn't stay retired. Nobody stays retired or dead, and
Yeah.
anything that gets destroyed can be rebooted, and it's like, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, this is such a common thing that when my dad was watching The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Gwen Stacy died, he kept saying, she's not really dead. She's not really dead. And he wasn't saying that like I hope she's not dead.
Right.
He's saying that like, she's not really dead.
They're
Like,
gonna bring her back.
yeah, nobody believes it anymore.
Yeah. No,
And
and the funny thing is, Sony was planning on bringing her back.
oh yeah, like that's like probably the best reason to not get Amazing Spider-Man 3 is because
Ah.
to bring her back and make her Spider-Woman, it's like, okay, you obviously miss why this
Yeah.
left such an impact on the
Yeah.
comics community.
Yeah.
So, but I could just easily see Marvel doing something really dumb, like in Infinity War, using like the 7 Infinity Stones to grant like a wish or something and bringing him back, and it's like, just please don't do it. Don't do it. This actually means something at this point.
Yeah. And the thing with Yondu, unlike the other characters, is he went out with ceremony. It's like they relish the fact that he had died, and it's like really the first Marvel character, the first important Marvel character to have died. So I'm like, don't undercut that. Please don't undercut that, because you leave him there. Don't bring him back, please.
Yeah, don't bring him back. I mean, because heck, let's go back to the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, even though I like Baby Groot, I do. I like him. He's cute. Not gonna say he's not. But I mean, come on. It ticked me off when Groot did that big sacrifice and everybody gets a
Mhm.
little teary-eyed, and then you see this little twig like stretch and yawn, and it's like, oh, well, okay, I guess I got choked up over nothing.
Do you watch How It Should Have Ended?
Oh, don't get me started on how it should have ended. I hate that show.
The one they did for Guardians. I thought was hilarious because the explosion made a bunch of little twigs, and so in the How It Should Have Ended, there was a ton of baby Groots on Xandar just dancing, and I was like, "Yeah, really? Why is only this one? Because they're all really part of Groot. So does that mean there's like a ton of them out there in the galaxy just like wreaking havoc, or is it
Yeah,
just the one? And why is it just the one?"
I don't know, but I mean, come on, it would have meant a lot more if Groot
Oh
had
yeah,
stayed dead.
oh yeah.
Especially since Groot largely didn't do much in this movie. I mean, he
No.
gets around, and that bomb thing, that could have easily been rewritten. It would not have been as funny as it was with
Hmm.
Groot,
Yeah.
but I mean, let's face it. I mean, there's no reason for Baby Groot to exist in this movie. They were just afraid to kill the character. So,
Yeah.
Yondu, I hope you stay dead. With all due respect.
Yeah. I think he will. I
Well,
really
especially
think he will.
especially since I don't think he was nearly as popular as the other characters, so they probably wouldn't it be interesting if they were kind of just testing this death out, like let's see how people will accept a
Hmm.
death. A death that's not a villain, of course.
I was actually talking to my cousin earlier, and I'm like, what if in Infinity War they kill everybody off except for Hawkeye, and he somehow manages to survive, but they've killed everybody off? And I'm like, that would be the most hilarious thing ever to just have Hawkeye be the lone survivor of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Everybody's dead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want to get into speculation on that, I think a lot of characters are going to die.
I hope so. I hope so, because you really need to up the ante with your villains, especially when you've been building them up for what will be 10 years.
Well, not
So,
only do you need to build up your villains, but let's face it, you can't have the actors are getting older and their contracts are
no.
expiring and they're just going to cost more and more money. And you know what? I like finality to things. Like some people have asked me because I used to run a comic review site and I read a lot of comics still. They
Mm-hmm.
actually asked me, why do people respect the Japanese comics more than the American comics?
Oh.
And you know what? There's a lot of reasons. First of all, I think Japanese comics are way more varied in terms of what they are about than
Mm-hmm.
American comics. Like the two comic series that I am currently I'm usually reading several, but the two that I'm reading deeply right now is Assassination Classroom, which is about a supernatural being who blew up half of the moon, and now he's teaching a classroom of kids how to kill him before the summer is up, before he destroys the earth. That's what one of the series is about. The other series I'm reading is called Slam Dunk, which is about a high school kid who wants to impress a girl, and she really likes basketball. So he joins the basketball team, and he's not very good at playing basketball. He doesn't even know how to play, but he's built like an athlete. So if they could teach him these things, he'd be a star. So that's number one. Like these are topics that you would never
Yeah.
read in an American comic,
No.
or at least not one from DC or Marvel, who pretty much own it.
Yeah.
But then the other reason, and I think this is the bigger one, is that there are endings and things end, and they. So, I mean, some of them get dragged out a little bit, like Bleach and Naruto and Dragon Ball. Their endings got delayed quite a bit because of their popularity, but the
Mm-hmm.
bottom line is they still ended.
Mm-hmm.
So, like any great movie or book or stage play, you can discuss the beginning, the middle, and the end. Whereas with a lot of the American superhero comics, most of the stuff they are discussing involve the early golden age of comics,
Mm-hmm.
which is when their most daring stuff was being written, and they didn't. I mean, they're writing the stuff not thinking it would go on for 30, 40, 50 years.
Right.
And so this is the area where the movies have a real chance to shake things up a little with the Infinity Wars. They can bring a lot of the storylines to an end and start new journeys with other characters.
Yeah.
And Kevin Feige has suggested that the cinematic universe is going to look very different after an Infinity Wars, which to me means don't expect any more Iron Mans or Captain Americas, maybe another Spider Man, but where there's a reason they're introducing Guardians of the Galaxy and Doctor Strange and Black Panther and stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
Because they know that unlike the comics, they can't keep this going,
Right.
well, for infinity.
Right. Just till Infinity War.
Just until Infinity War. And yeah, so I am, and the thing is, I mean, their run of movies have been impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm quite amazed that they've been able to keep it going so long, but you can't do it forever. And the thing is, even though the movies are still making money, bubbles burst, and I would rather them wrap it up now properly
And
before
let the
you got
bubble burst on DC.
right instead of or like instead of like what happened to Amazing Spider-Man 2 where
Yeah.
it just didn't make enough money to continue to justify going on, so you just drop the series and you start it over again, and it's like
Yeah.
or what happened with Hellboy this week, where it's like found out, oh, we're not getting Hellboy 3, but
Reboot.
we're rebooting it, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you know what? I have to take a moment. Not that Hellboy's my favorite thing in the world, but here's the thing: it confuses me because it's like, okay, you say you won't make Hellboy 3 because there's no demand for it, yet you acknowledge that there's enough of a demand to reboot it. Why not just make Hellboy 3?
Yeah.
People will.
I
I
know.
mean, you have two movies to sell leading up to it.
I didn't get that either, and I'm not a fan of Hellboy. I've only seen bits and pieces, but I'm with you. Like, just if they're going to make a reboot, why not? Because you know what they're going to do. They're just going to put the first movie with the new guy, put a little bit of changes, and that'll be it. And they'll throw it out there. Why? Because the first one was good because it warranted a sequel.
Right.
So that's it. That's the only thing behind that. Um, the reboot versus actually doing something original.
Right. Gene Siskel, one time when he was asked, like, why was his opinion of Karate Kid Part 3 different from Karate Kid Part 1 when they were essentially the same thing? And if you like the first one, why didn't you like the third one? He
Mhm.
said, he said, and I'm going to try to do the best Siskel impersonation I can, even though nobody knows what he sounds like anymore, probably. And he's like, look, The Karate Kid was a fascinating film and I liked it, but I've seen it and I don't need to see it again and again.
This is fantastic because I don't see your face. I just hear the voice, and I have seen videos of him. Dang it, that
What was
was
it?
pretty spooky. That was pretty spooky.
What did it sound like him?
It actually sounded pretty good.
Okay.
That was pretty spooky.
Oh, that's
um,
because I just played the video clip of him.
yeah, that's.
No, I'm kidding.
I know,
It was my voice.
I know.
But now I was wondering, boy, how long can I get away with fooling him?
I mean, you have no video, so that's a good start. Um,
Yeah. Well, I do want to fix the video for next time. I just don't know how to fix it
so
now.
so next time will be Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Oh, oh, geez, yeah, and
It won't be
we,
as amicable.
yeah, we will continue discussing Guardians of the Galaxy. I promise, guys. But Spider-Man: Homecoming. I'm just gonna state this up front. While I do like Tom Holland, I don't think there's any reason to reboot the character.
Mhm.
I mean, really, there was not. Andrew Garfield was fine as Spider-Man, and even though I wasn't happy with the way they ended it, in an interesting way, the way they ended it, you know, led into the Civil War storyline perfectly.
Yeah,
There was no reason to start it over this way, other than because Marvel was like, well, we want to do what we want to do with it, and it's like, but Marvel, have you not heard of "Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater"?
yeah,
Like
but
the mean,
regardless, though, Sony picked the actor.
they did they pick Tom Holland?
Yeah,
Well, I don't get
they
it.
all wanted a new guy, and it was between, I believe, Asa Butterfield and Tom Holland. And Marvel wanted Butterfield, and Sony wanted Tom Holland, and Sony won. Which good
Well,
decision on their part because he plays a good Peter Parker and a good Spider-Man. Um, but yeah, I'm with you. Like it really did lead into Civil War, so
yeah,
it still would have made sense.
I mean, because what better time for Spider-Man to really be conflicted about superheroes running amok than after his running amok cost his girlfriend to die?
Sure. Wow, that would have been a powerful intro for him into the MCU. Wow. What could have been?
What could have been if Marvel was a real studio.
Or if Sony knew how to manage their things properly.
Boy, that's just like the match made in hell. A studio that doesn't know how to make movies and a studio who doesn't know how to manage actors.
Or anything. Because
Yeah.
okay, the Spider-Man movies. I'm not talking about Amazing Spider-Man, but the Spider-Man movies. That was due to Raimi. Like the
Yes.
reason why they were so good.
Yes. And some people have argued with me because they say, so what's your favorite Marvel movie? And I'm like, Spider-Man 2. It's the only Marvel movie to get 5 stars. And they're like, well, that's not a real Marvel movie. And it's like, screw you. It's Spider-Man. It's got Marvel's logo on it. It's a
Well,
Marvel movie.
do you mean Marvel Studios movie or Marvel movie?
Oh, I'm saying Marvel movie. If it's Marvel
Right. No, no,
Studios,
no, no. I would tell them. So when you say Marvel movie, are you meaning Marvel Studios or Marvel movie? Because there is a difference.
but
Um,
I'm not going to make that difference too much, if only because it's like, I am so sorry if Marvel themselves were not involved in the best movie that bared their name on it. That is not my
Yeah.
fault. They can obviously do better if they want.
Yeah. Yeah,
I,
that's true.
I'm just stating that. I mean, it's like, look, we've seen Spider-Man 2, we've seen The Dark Knight, we've seen Logan, we've seen Mad Max Fury Road, which isn't a superhero movie, but it's a franchise movie, and of course
Yeah.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and it's like, guys, franchise movies can be great if they want to be.
I'm excited now that you talked about Planet of the Apes for Batman, for the DCU Batman movie, because they had the director of Planet of the Apes, the new guy, Matt
Yes,
Reeves.
that is
And
very
he stated that he was going to approach Batman like he approached Caesar. And I was like, oh boy,
yeah,
okay.
that
I
would be
can,
good.
yeah, all right.
As long as they're not shoehorning. Well, actually, that comes out after Justice League, so maybe they
Yeah,
have that issue. I'm hoping, but I'm still very very cautious of anything DC makes after Suicide Squad, which, for the record, all 157 people who are watching this right now, Suicide Squad was where the fallout occurred. So, oh, so well, anyway, let's talk about one more aspect of Guardians of the Galaxy, and then we'll like wrap it
all
up.
right.
Um, but this is we need to discuss this aspect because people they've I've seen it in the chat. They're asking me about it. Apparently, this is a very big deal. Is the soundtrack as good as the first one?
Oh, what do you think? I'm going to
Well,
divert to you
it
first.
loses a demerit for including an original song that isn't even very good. So we'll start with
Yeah,
that one.
okay.
Uh, I The funny thing is, I actually have like a definitive answer because I rate my songs on my classic iPod, and I write the songs individually, and then they come with like an average album score. And apparently, the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack winds up at 4.5 stars on average, and Volume 2 at 4 stars, and the TV show soundtrack at 3.5.
Nice.
So I guess technically, no, the music's not as good as the first movie.
No, and it's it's because the whole movie is different. So even though it is the same thing, they kind of do different. They try to do different things with the whole movie, and I think the music kind of reflected that. But I I say that the first one is better because it felt better integrated. And again, it's like the lightning in a bottle thing. Like you can't recreate that, like the hearing ooga chaka over every single trailer, which they didn't use music as strongly in the marketing as they did last time, which I think hurt them because they have some great songs like Blue Sky and
Well, hurt is a relative term. It made more money the opening weekend than the first one did, so
wait, what?
the sequel made more money in its opening weekend than the first one did. So I don't know how much it hurt them really.
Well, no. I mean, okay, I mean as far as when I looked at the trailers, having seen the first one's trailers, the music usage at least was better. Um, it became like a brand for them. Was like the music. There's going to be music in this movie. Whereas this one, it was kind of an afterthought to put the music in the trailers. They were there, but they weren't as prominent, and it didn't feel as special. And again, it could just be because it wasn't the first time you're seeing it, and it's the same thing over again. It doesn't feel as good as it did back when it was an original thing.
It was smart of them to open the movie with Mr. Blue Sky. After that, the songs were largely haphazard in, except for Brandy, You're a
Yeah.
Fine Girl, which was like actually played an integral role in the story somehow.
Yeah.
Like, how on earth did that happen?
Yeah.
So, now speaking of music, I am going to spoil one of the best jokes of the movie because at the end of the movie, because the Walkman gets destroyed. May the Walkman rest in peace. And
you hear that they're going for like thousands of dollars of Sony Walkman.
well, I'm actually getting to that in a moment. But at the end of the
Okay.
movie, one of the characters hands Star-Lord a Zune and says, "This is what everyone on Earth is listening to. It holds 350 songs." And Star Wars like 350 songs. And there's two jokes in that. First of all, my iPod holds like 20,000 songs.
Right.
And secondly, nobody was ever listening to a Zune, so that's why it was two jokes.
I never heard of a Zune until Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and then I'm like, what in the frick is this? I have never heard of this in my life.
Yeah, I actually remember the Zune. I actually have a Zune. It doesn't get used very often, but I have a Zune, and I actually had wrote at the end of my review, the only question I have now is my Zune going to be really valuable on eBay? And after I wrote that line, I went on eBay, and guess what's a trending topic?
Yep.
Zunes are selling for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars now.
Yep.
So now my question is this: when we get Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, are they going to make a deal with Microsoft to make a Guardians of the Galaxy themed Zune with the soundtracks already on it?
Ooh.
Maybe that's what the Guardians of the Galaxy really are. Maybe they're the savior of
old
music players.
That's funny.
And so that, I think, is a good place to end on our sort of discussion of the movie. I mean,
it was a leap off of, it was started in Guardians and then it leaped off into superhero movies as a whole.
Yes. I mean, I think that does speak that, at the end of the day, guys, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, this is not the most sophisticated movie in the world. It's not the best movie in the world. You could probably even argue that it's really not that important in the long run. It's just fun. As evidenced by the fact that there wasn't a whole lot to really talk about when it was all said and done. But I have to say, as far as popcorn movies go, and I say this as someone who does not eat popcorn, it does way more than most.
Yeah. Yep.
So, anyway, so that's going to be the end of this discussion. So thank you to all of my people who normally visit my channel for Uber News. I'm going to obviously save the video and migrate it over to the personal YouTube channel, which is about movies and everything. There's a long story why we couldn't live stream on that one. But I don't want to state it here just in case YouTube is listening.
They're always listening.
Yeah, it's a Google product. What do you expect? So anyway, so yes, that once again, I'm Kevin T. Rodriguez, and this is Rob from the Movie Channel. I'll have a link to both my print review of the movie and his movie channel below. Do you want me to link to your channel or to your video review of Guardians of the Galaxy?
You can do my video, because my video, I mean, obviously leads to my channel. So
of course.
Well, no, I mean,
no, that's me.
You could do it either way.
That's me making fun of myself.
You could do it either way. I trust your viewers to know if it's my video, it links to my channel.
Yeah. Well, they would probably recognize your video because it's like, oh, look, it's the guy who has videos, and compared to the guy who has the little phone icon.
The little phone icon.
Yeah, pretty big difference. So, but anyway, thanks for joining me. This was fun. But for the record, I'm seeing King Arthur tonight.
Oh.
So, I don't know if you have an interest in doing a discussion on that one, but
I saw it 2 weeks ago.
You did.
I got a.
Yeah, I was sick that day.
It was the AMC thing, and it's okay. I mean, yeah.
Do you think there's going to be much to talk about?
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay, so for the time being, we'll say.
But then again, I hold the 2004 version with high regard. So, so it is a Guy Ritchie movie, and I think I know you're gonna give it like 1 star.
No, I like Guy Ritchie.
And I think Well,
when
no,
he's
no,
not.
no, 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 no. I'm talking about, yeah, and I love him too. I love the Sherlock Holmes movies, but this movie, King Arthur, eh, you're not gonna like it.
Mm,
Don't. Eh, I'm sorry. I don't want to say that because then you're gonna be like, I loved it. What'd you talk about?
no,
But
you're probably right. I'm actually not anticipating enjoying it myself. But
yeah,
okay, so we'll be there for Spider-Man: Homecoming. Logically, our next one should be Wonder Woman, but I'm honestly kind of terrified to get into that with you because our DC conversations have now I'm going to use a strong word. They have gotten very savage in the past.
yes.
So, kind of terrified to tackle that one with you, but
We'll keep it in the Marvel.
well, yeah, even I have issues with Marvel, maybe just not as many at the moment.
Yeah.
So okay, anyway, that's where we'll end it. Thanks for joining me, and we will definitely do it again.
That was fun.
That was. See you later. And by the way, everyone, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, contribute to our Patreon accounts if you feel like you want to help us out. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.